You're so quiet. You've heard it before, maybe from someone who barely knows you. They usually say it like it's a diagnosis, like something's missing, like you forgot a piece of yourself somewhere and never went back for it. Picture this. You're at a table with 5 people, plates half cleared, someone's phone buzzing face down and nobody picking it up. Someone jokes about work. Someone else brings up weekend plans. Someone turns to you and asks, "So what do you do?" You answer politely, because you know how to be decent. And then you go quiet again, and the conversation moves past you like a current finding the next rock. From the outside, that looks like nothing is happening. From the inside, something is happening constantly. You're catching the tone under the joke. You're noticing the person who keeps talking louder because they feel ignored, the one steering every story back to themselves. You're not empty. You just haven't found the part of the conversation that's actually yours yet. Then it shifts. Someone asks a question that feels honest. Maybe what you actually think, maybe a topic you've quietly cared about for years. And suddenly you're talking, not performing, not forcing it, just finally having somewhere real to put what was already there. That's the whole misunderstanding in one moment. Quiet people aren't cold. They open through meaning, not pressure. Cold is just the easy label, because silence is easy to misread. I'm Kansas. I know that feeling. Sitting through a birthday dinner while the table talks around you. Not to you, around you. Then leaving with the strange thought that maybe you failed at something everyone else seemed to do without trying. Maybe the next day, someone messages, "You okay? You seemed kind of far away last night." But you were not far away. You were just still holding 3 or 4 things you had not found the right moment to say. When you don't jump into a conversation, people fill in the blank for you. They assume you're bored. They assume you're judging them. They assume you don't want to be there. Most of the time, none of that is true. You're listening more carefully than anyone realizes. The pause after a joke. The voice that gets thinner while the smile stays the same. The detail someone dropped that nobody else picked up on, and that quietly tells you more than the rest of the conversation combined. The warmth is there. It just doesn't come out fast, because you're still choosing the right words while the room has already moved on. People mistake the delay for distance. What they're actually watching is care, moving slowly enough to stay honest. If people have ever mistaken your quietness for coldness, drop listening in the comments below. I want to see how many of us there actually are. Here's the mistake underneath the mistake. People measure warmth by speed. A quick smile reads as friendly. A fast answer reads as confident. Someone who can turn nothing into small talk seems open and easy, someone worth trusting on sight. So when you take a little longer, people assume something's missing, when really the only thing different is your timing. Your warmth doesn't work like a light switch. It's more like a kettle on a quiet stove, slow at first, easy to miss if someone keeps rushing past it, and completely unremarkable to anyone who walks by before it starts to steam. Ask a surface question, and you'll get a surface answer. How was your weekend? Good. That might be all you get. But ask what you've actually been thinking about, or why something matters to you, and the room changes. Not because you became a different person, but because the conversation finally gave you somewhere real to enter. The stove was never off. People just left before the water got hot. Group conversations move like traffic. Someone cuts in, someone laughs over the ending, someone changes the subject right as your thought finishes forming. By the time you know what you want to say, the moment's already gone. So you stay quiet, and people read it as disinterest. But put you across from one person who actually listens, and something different happens. Not louder in a fake way, just easier to reach. You can finish a thought. You can sit in a pause without someone grabbing it. You can answer with more than the safe version, because nothing's forcing you to trim it down before it leaves your mouth. Ask about the weather, and you'll get the smallest possible answer. Cloudy. Fine. Kind of hot. Not because you're being difficult. The question just doesn't touch anything that needs more than 3 words. But ask why a movie stayed with you, or what you actually think about something you've been quietly watching for weeks, and something changes. Your hands start moving. You forget to measure every sentence. You stop noticing how long you've been talking, because for once it doesn't feel like performing. It feels like finally getting to show someone a place your mind has already been living in for a while. The topic doesn't make you a different person. It just gives your sincerity a handle to hold on to, something solid enough to hand over without it slipping out of shape on the way. There's a reason starting a conversation costs you more than continuing one. Beginning means choosing the topic, the timing, and how much of yourself to hand over. all in a few seconds. That is a lot to calculate, especially when you are standing in a kitchen holding a drink you are not really drinking. So you wait for something solid, a real question, a shared interest, or a pause that feels patient instead of awkward. You weren't hiding a personality. You were waiting for a way, and that didn't feel fake. There's another layer to this most people never notice. Sometimes you walk into a room and feel the mood before you understand it. A joke sounds normal, but the person laughing looks tense. Someone says they're fine, but their voice drops at the end of the sentence. You don't know exactly what happened. You just sense the room isn't as simple as it looks. So you wait, not because you have nothing to add, but because speaking too fast would mean stepping in before you know where the floor is. That's not slowness. That's orientation. You're finding the honest way in before you commit to it. Now, here's the part that needs honesty, because this can go two directions. Being quiet can be sincere. Choosing your words carefully, waiting for a conversation that can actually hold the real answer. But quiet can also turn into a hiding place. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where you stop speaking because you've already decided people will misread you anyway. So why bother? At first it feels protective. You laugh less. You answer shorter. You let people think you're fine, because correcting them feels like opening a drawer that's already too full. Someone asks what's wrong, and the honest answer rises up, and you swallow it, because one more careless reaction might make you shut down completely. Maybe it happened once. You finally said the real thing, and someone laughed it off or changed the subject, and some part of you quietly decided not to risk that again. Slowly, the silence stops helping you speak more honestly later. It just keeps you from speaking at all. That's the line worth checking yourself against. Healthy quietness gives your warmth time to arrive. It's still on its way, just moving at its own pace. Fearful quietness convinces you your warmth is safer if no one ever sees it at all. That isn't patience anymore. It is protection that slowly turns into a wall. If that difference made you see your silence more clearly, hit like. Some quiet people get called cold for a specific reason. They don't know how to act close before closeness actually feels real. Someone they barely know says, "I miss you," after two good conversations, and they freeze for half a second. Not out of rudeness. The sentence just feels bigger than the relationship can honestly hold yet. So they answer kindly, but they don't copy the warmth just to keep the moment smooth. People misread that as coldness. It isn't. A quiet person takes longer to call you a friend, longer to say what they feel, but when the care shows up, it's usually specific. They remember the appointment you were nervous about, the one you mentioned once in passing and never brought up again. They send one short message on the exact day they knew you needed it, not the day everyone else remembers to check in. That kind of sincerity looks quiet at first, until you realize it was never missing. It was just moving at its own honest pace. And once a quiet person trusts you, they don't suddenly become talkative every day. Their openness looks smaller than people expect. They sit beside you after a hard conversation and don't rush to fix your feelings or fill the silence with advice you didn't ask for. They send one honest paragraph instead of 10 cheerful messages. They let you see the unfinished thought they'd normally edit away, the worry they've been carrying alone, the strange half-formed idea they'd usually keep to themselves. And that's a big thing for them, because quiet people don't share casually. They share when they sense someone can actually hold what they're handing over, without dropping it or making a show of catching it. If a quiet person opens up to you, don't treat it like a switch you can flip whenever you want. Don't tease them for talking more, and don't make a big deal out of it, even a kind one. The fastest way to close a quiet person back up is to make their openness feel exposed. The way to keep it alive is to let it feel ordinary, calm, unremarkable, respected, like it was never a performance to begin with. So if any of this sounds like you, here's one honest question worth sitting with tonight. When you go quiet, is it because you're choosing your words carefully, or because some part of you has already decided this conversation isn't safe to enter? If it's the first one, you don't need to change anything. That's not a flaw to fix. That's just how your warmth arrives, and no amount of forcing yourself to talk faster will make it more real. But if it's the second one, if quiet has quietly turned into avoidance, try one small thing this week. Pick one person you trust, and instead of giving them the 3-word answer, give them the real one, just once. Not a speech. One honest sentence longer than you'd normally allow yourself. And if the first attempt feels clumsy, that is okay. Quiet people often expect honesty to come out polished, as if the sentence has to arrive fully formed before it deserves to be spoken. It does not. Sometimes a small, imperfect sentence is still enough to tell someone, "This is the real me, right now." That's the whole test. You're not proving you can be someone louder. You're just checking whether the words still work when you actually use them, whether the drawer opens the way you were afraid it might, or whether it turns out to hold less mess than you remembered. If any part of this put words to something you felt but never said out loud, subscribe. This channel exists to keep naming the things people misunderstand about you, without the jargon. Because maybe quiet people were never cold. They were waiting for a conversation that could actually meet them.